What's up, y'all? This is Sam at Sam Talks, and I just wanted to record a video for y'all today on the series From. And I have two very good theories, and one theory is what I'm going to elaborate on, but I am going to tell you both of my theories. Okay, so I'll be right back. Okay, this is what we're going to do. So, the first theory I have, which I'm not going to explain, I'm going to explain the second theory. The first theory I have is that it's a witch or a goddess controlling a certain area because we did see the spider webs. And and it's Anansi the spider. And the reason um, the people are being kept is because the stories feed the hunger for Anansi the spider to be able to live in that area and protect itself. And the dates that we saw are all the time frames that people were able to record what was happening and what was going on. I don't think it's any reincarnation. I think we'll find out that that is not going to be true. So, going to my second theory, which is what I really want to talk about. My second theory is the insane asylum hospital theory. Okay, so hear me out. In a hospital, let's take out the hospital part. In an insane asylum, okay, let's go all the way back. 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 Let's ask one question. What happened to Thomas? How did Thomas die? Nobody ever talks about that. Even in the show, I went back and watched the first couple of episodes, first 3 episodes. Nobody talks about how Thomas passed away, right? And he talks about how Norman died, and he needs to take him back to the Lake of Tears, and the Lake of Tears can heal anything, right? And he's talking to Julie, and throughout all this whole thing, he's saying that this is a story, and I absolutely believe that this is a story. Let me explain. Where there are only a few places, but I'm gonna ask y'all these questions. Where are the few places there are no children? It's an insane asylum. Insane asylums are categorized by adults and children. A lot of times you don't have children in the same locations you would have adults. A lot of times they wouldn't even put kids in an insane asylum. So here's my theory, right? My theory is that Tabitha is the point of view of where the series is coming from, which is why she's so in denial. She keeps going, no, 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 no. She's the only one that hasn't embraced what's going on here. She's the only one that can't accept what's going on in this area when everybody else can. I can explain everybody's role. For example, when Tabitha got pushed out the lighthouse, right, by the boy in white, she woke up in a hospital, ended up in an ambulance, and ended up right back in from land, right? Well, a lot of times when patients are in insane asylums, they are doped up on heavy medication. A lot of times that results in hallucinations, but oftentimes people are in insane asylums because they're having hallucinations, a danger to themselves or others because of grief, or other reasons that they might have, try to be a danger to themselves or others, or are going through some kind of psychosis or uncontrollable paranoia, which is what's going on in From Land. There's psychosis, paranoia, and grief. The town is not feeding on your fear. That's not the case. So once we figure out what happened to Thomas, it'll bring the story together. Once we figure out in From Land who the point of view is coming from, it will bring the story together. The boy in white is Ethan in real life. Okay? Keep listening to me. Keep listening to me. So the numbers on the wall are the numbers inside Tabitha's cell, okay, of people who have been there before her in that same insane asylum. I'm gonna explain everything. Boyd and Acosta are there to investigate what happened to Thomas, because what ended up happening after Thomas got murdered or drowned or something happened to him, They said he died, okay? How did he die? How did he die? Because I'm willing to believe that's the reason why his parents, remember they said that's the one of the reasons why the parents was getting divorced, was because Thomas had passed away. And they didn't say it was a miscarriage. They didn't say it was a stillbirth. So that means the child was alive at the time. And which also leads me to believe if Ethan said it was his younger brother, then it had to been somewhere where the baby, it had to been at least old enough for him to talk to. Okay, so let's say if Ethan is about 8, 9, then the kid might be around, the child might be 5 or 6, right? So let's say something happened, Jim was taking the kid out somewhere, Thomas happened to run away. Maybe Ethan saw what happened to Thomas, somebody grabbed Thomas, and maybe saw him get drowned, or they found the body in the lake of tears, okay? Let's say they found the body in a lake. They found Thomas in the lake. And and Jim, in all his grief, through, having the death of his son, possibly being murdered, now finding out that he's dead, and now going through a divorce, I think he offed himself. You know what I'm saying? And I really think that's the case. It makes sense. And I think Boyd and Acosta are there to investigate the crime. And I think what they're doing is asking witnesses who were in the area at the time. And Ethan is seeing these boys and Ethan, if you notice, Ethan rarely comes in contact with the monsters. The monsters are outside. And that's very metaphorical to children, because children see people they don't know or people as a threat to them as monsters. Okay, so this is also very, and if you look at the color, the simplicity of the story, the primary colors are like the colors in a crayon box. They're looking at drawn pictures. A lot of times when a kid is going through counseling after trauma, the psychologist will ask them to draw pictures of memories that they have, either memories of the trauma or memories of past experiences, past life experiences that make them feel good. Okay, but a lot of times they'll draw those things. So when they go back to Tabitha's house, and Henry says, "Oh yeah, these drawings, they were done by Henry's, Victor's mom or whatever, my wife, blase, blase." Yeah, it's because they're in an insane asylum too. All of them are. All of them are in an insane asylum. Henry is a groundskeeper. He just took her back. Watch, you'll find out Henry is a groundskeeper. Victor has been in the insane asylum for 40 years because he witnessed a crime from his sister Eloise, and it's been breaking his mind, and they never could figure it out or find it out. So his mom was formerly there, and she ended up offing herself in an insane asylum, and Victor ended up being put in one also. But I don't think Victor was ever in the insane asylum. I think he lives in the insane asylum. I don't think he's there as in, how do I put it? I don't think he's there as a patient. I don't think Victor is there as a patient. I think he's there living in the basement of the insane asylum, living by himself, and have interacted with the patients. And people know he lives there out of respect to Henry, the groundskeeper or the manager. And I'm willing to bet Henry is either the groundskeeper or he's the manager. It only makes sense why as soon as Tabitha broke out by trying to off herself, as soon as she broke out, she ended up in the hospital. She ended up miraculously with Henry in unusual circumstances, in the path, okay? In an unexplained path. She ended up with Henry out of all freaking people. And what does he do? He sets her up to be taken back to From. But the only way he knows to get her back to From is through an accident. But it's not just any accident. It has to be taken back through the ambulance. Did anybody notice that? He didn't drive her back to Fromland, because why not just drive her back? If you were going to take her back to Fromland, why not just drive her back? You know how to get back there, because you said your wife was there. You know Victor's there. You know how to get there. But Henry knew the only way to get to Fromland was through an ambulance. What's the only way to get, one of the few ways to get somewhere through an ambulance? Is the insane asylum or it's a hospital. And even at most hospitals, you don't have a lot of children. They have children's hospitals. So they're either in an insane asylum or they're in a hospital. And I'm willing to bet that Ethan saw something just like Victor did. And he's trying to explain it. And I'm willing to believe that the Lake of Tears is where Thomas is either buried or was murdered. And if Thomas, and I'm willing to believe the man in yellow or whoever is these threats, or this main threat, is actually the real villain who took the child or did whatever to the child or murdered the child in question. But I'm willing to believe this all has to do with that one nuclear family, because nobody else in the town makes sense. The story is not revolving around the people in town. It's revolving around this one family. It's revolving around Julie. It's revolving around Ethan. It's revolving around Tabitha, and it's revolving around Jim. I also think that Tabitha and Jade were having an affair in real life. Okay. I think and I think that Jim found out about it and Tabitha didn't want to let it out. Okay. And when Jim offed himself, Tabitha called off the situation with Jade. And that's why Jade wants to talk about it. But now everything is leading up. It is telling the story. You can't change the chapters that have already happened because this is the past. That's what everybody's not thinking. If you think about it in insane asylum, it's just a recall of memories. This is just the past. This is a child explaining his viewpoint. And not only a child, you have the point of view from Tabitha. You have the point of view from Ethan. And you have the point of view from Julie. But as side characters, you also have the point of view of Boyd. Well, not really. Boyd is kind of a side character. He's a role-playing character. So there are no characters that move the story unlike that family does, okay? So that family is the nucleus of the story. Therefore, the issue and the situation and where they at surrounding is about this family, because why are they targeted so heavily? In the beginning, a lot of times an author will put, okay, so I've written like 6 or 7 books. It's been a lot, okay? And basically, I wrote a whole story about, it was a crime fiction, and the woman in question ended up being in a coma for the entire time. You basically reading these fantasies that are happening, these dreams that are happening in her head as she's in a coma. And only to find out that the last book is actually her real life, which is what I think is going to happen here. I think you're going to go through all of this, and then in the final season, they're going to bring the focus back out, and you're going to end up in the real world with the family discussing their point of views of what happened to Thomas and Jim's death, and grieving Jim's death, because I think Jim is dead in real life. I don't think he was ever there. Or if he was there for some time, and then during the investigation, he might have offed himself once he found out that Thomas was actually dead and not missing. But either way, I think it's surrounding about Thomas's death. I think once we find out what happened to Thomas, I think we find out all of these things. I think the reincarnation is a red herring. I think the Ankui kids is a red herring. Because, and let me explain why. The Ankui kids are, and this is what's gonna throw everybody off. The Ankui kids are other victims. Okay, so if Thomas was taken, Thomas is the boy in white, and I think that's what we're gonna find out. I think Thomas is the boy in white, and he's been trying to talk to people to be located. A lot of time a soul won't move on to the next place until, they are, until their business on earth is finished. And no, I don't think this is purgatory. I absolutely don't. But I think that that's the visual interpretation of what's going on. I think that, his point of view, Thomas, he could be, there could be other situations where maybe he could be near death, and he feels close to his brother and reaching out to his brother, or trying to reach out to his brother, and people are sensing it. People can, people always say they could hear something in their head and they just went somewhere and then boom, they found the person, or boom, they just had a hunch, and that's definitely a way for a child to explain something by calling it a story. If the person did grab, or like the black phone where, somebody grabbed the little boy and had him in the basement. What if somebody grabbed Thomas, took him somewhere, and they never found the body? And, they're all thinking that Thomas is passed. And maybe the man in yellow who Ethan saw take Thomas has 7 other kids buried somewhere else. And maybe Ethan is the only one still alive, trying to be found. So, and there are other monsters at play, you see what I'm saying, that come at night, and he may see them torture other kids or whatever. We're going to find out that this is a real life scenario. I don't think it has nothing to do with supernatural. I think it's a relayance of dreams. Relayance, that's not a word. I think it's a recollection of dreams, of, not dreams, a recollection of memories by a core group of people remembering Jim, the grief, experiencing paranoia because there may be possibly a murder, and 2, grief, paranoia, and psychosis. And psychosis due to fear. They keep saying fear fuels this person. It wants you to have hope. It wants you to have hope. But hope for what? It's not hope to get out. It's hope to find Thomas, or to figure out what happened to Thomas. Because I don't think Julie is story walking. I think Julie is trying to find the truth out about what happened to Thomas. And I think she feels that if she could go back in time in real life, or if she could somehow reconcile Thomas's death, she can save her parents and she can save her family. And they can get out of what they're going through. She can get her mom out of the insane asylum. You see what I'm saying? And get their family back on track. I think Boyd can leave, but I don't think Boyd can leave until the problem is solved. I don't think, kind of like the Shutter Island theory. Shutter Island, you thinking the whole time that this man is a federal investigator, and the whole time he's the patient. Boyd, he never stopped being the sheriff, not once. Neither did Edward, what was his name? Edward Nathan? No, I forgot what his name was on it's Edward something on Shutter Island, one of my favorite movies. And Andrew Latis, that's what it was, Andrew Latis. So, and I think it's just gonna be a real life scenario like that, where in the background, everything that he was talking about, this whole scenario ended up being his wife had drowned his kids, and he couldn't take it. He killed his wife. So I think we're gonna find that Jim, probably wasn't paying attention to his son. His son got taken, possibly murdered or missing, never came back. He took responsibility off himself, and because of the divorce, off himself. Tabitha threw herself in an insane asylum due to grief, paranoia, and fear, thus passing that on to the kids. And the only person who witnessed this, in addition to Jim, might be Ethan. I don't think Julie ever saw what happened to Thomas. I don't think the mom saw what happened to Thomas. I think the mom is in the classic state of grief. I think that's what Tabitha is experiencing, the 5 stages of grief, which is denial, depression. You go through all of that, the mania, all of that. and the other people are just workers. Like, I think Donna is just a nurse. I think we're gonna find out that Donna's like a head nurse at the insane asylum, and I think we're gonna find out that in the first couple episodes where that boy was like, "Hey, Julie, you don't remember me?" I think she ends up meeting that boy at the hospital, probably when he was visiting as well. Somebody there or an older person he's visiting, and spoke to her, and I think she's been coming back to that hospital trying to get information. And I think also that she's been bringing Ethan to the hospital as well, the insane asylum where Boyd is and Acosta is, to try to get information about what happened to Thomas. Okay? Because if you think about it, right, we rarely see these characters interact. I mean, just think about it this season. You one thing about it, central characters interact with each other. So you have to pay attention to the interactions. If they're not interacting with each other, are they even there? Okay, they say Julie is story walking, but I don't think she's story walking. I think in real life, Randall is her boyfriend. Because why pick him? You could have picked anybody. Why Randall? But he was also the one suffering with you. You were tied up, locked up. We gonna find out what happened. We gonna find out what really happened. But it's something to do with that nucleus family. Ethan saw what happened. It resulted in Jim offering himself whatever happened to Thomas, and that's how you'll wrap up Frontland. Now, tell me if y'all like this theory or not. It's 7:30 in the morning, so I was just thinking about this at 6:30 in the morning, but everything makes sense. If you put everything in the spot of an insane asylum, right? If you put the man in yellow as the evil nurse who be giving people medication, if you think about like I said, the colors make a big difference. Colors make a big difference in shows and movies. They're not for no reason. Color theory is really a thing. And they're from the child's point of view with, like I said, primary colors. It's a lot that goes into this, but I think I'm on to it. You guys come back to this, and I'm sure there'll be a couple people in the comments that be like, "Oh, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Explain this and explain that." I can explain everything, even the spider web. I think the spider webs was just an area of the insane asylum that has never been discovered before, that Boyd wanted to research and wanted to look at, as how did whatever happened, or he's looking for something, or he's caught in a physical web. I don't think it was a metaphysical, y'all know what I'm trying to say. I don't think it was a real web that Boyd was caught in with Sarah. I think it's a metaphorical web that he feels is coming over him and being affected by him, even to the point of maybe the case being sabotaged by somebody. I think we'll find all this out in the 5th season. We'll see. I could be completely wrong, or like I said, it could be Anansi the spider, but I highly doubt it's something supernatural. This is definitely some real life. And I think we'll find out in the end that Tabitha was having an affair with Jade in real life. So, and that they've known each other before. And I think that's what they need to remember, that they was already together in real life before they met in Frontland. And I think that'll be revealed. And once that's revealed, that'll explain a lot. It'll explain a lot. And then you'll come back to this theory. But all right, y'all. This has been Sam Talks. I'm Sam, a.k.a. Scorpio. Peace.